The compact SUV segment is a hotly contested one. I mean, every manufacturer is there. Tata's there with the Nexon, Maruti Suzuki with the Brezza, Honda's there with the WRV, Ford's there with the EcoSport, Mahindra with the XUV 300. Well, there's a lot of competition. There's one big name missing, Hyundai. They're here now with the Venue. They may be a little late to the party, but they've come all guns blazing. Now, can the Venue take on the competition? That's what we've got to find out. And in true Autocar style, we headed off to a special venue to test drive the Hyundai Venue. We had two variants of the car, the 1.4-litre diesel with the manual transmission and the 1-litre turbo petrol with the DCT. Now, the initial impression from behind the wheel of the Venue is that this car is going to be really city friendly. The steering is light, it's easy to maneuver. The clutch is easy and light to use. The gearbox functions really well and has a positive feel to it. So yeah, driving it in city and nipping and tucking in and out of gaps is going to be very easy. Parking is going to be really easy as well with its compact dimensions. The 1.4-litre diesel engine is the same one we've seen in the i20 and it produces the same 90 HP and 220 Nm of torque. To put it into perspective, it's the same amount of power as the Brezza, but marginally more torque. I'm in the diesel with the manual transmission to begin with. As far as performance goes, it's very, very linear. There's no sudden burst of power. There is a bit of turbo lag below the 1800 RPM mark, and once you get past that, it gets a move on. But after that, the power is really between 1800 and 3500 RPM. Beyond 3500, it begins to taper off again. Now, we did V-box the car, and the caveat is that this is not our regular test ground, but the 0 to 100 did come up in 15.48 seconds. Now, that's slower than all the competitors, and even the in-gear figures were slower than the competition. The engine is really not the best as far as outright performance is concerned, but it will probably throw up some pretty good fuel economy figures. The ARAI certified figure given by Hyundai is 23.7 kilometers per litre for the diesel. To get the best out of this engine, you really have to be light-footed, be gentle with the throttle, and it will give you its best. Even in a higher gear, if I slow down, as long as I'm gentle with the throttle, it will pick up and get a move on again quite easily. However, if you demand a sudden burst of power, it's not so happy to react. Basically, the turbo lag is well masked, and only when you demand more power, it becomes noticeable. This is a car that would suit the relaxed driver who needs comfort and convenience with the bonus of economy. For the rest, this engine is really refined. It's only when you push it to its limits do you hear the characteristic rattle that you hear even in the i20. Talking of pushing the car, we did have a lot of open stretches of road with literally no one around and some nice winding sections to test the handling. Now, the steering that's light and easy and friendly for the city actually weighs up quite well when you're going quicker and you do find the corners. It has a nice heft to it and it gives you a good amount of confidence. However, when you do go around the tighter corners, the body does tend to roll. It's a very consistent steering, and while earlier Hyundais would feel a little vague and light at higher speeds in a straight line, there's none of that here. It does feel good. While it doesn't have the fun to drive feel like an EcoSport, grip is adequate. That pretty much sums up the experience behind the wheel, and now it's time to shift focus to the back seat. So what's important in the back seat? Space. Now, space, as far as legroom goes, is tighter than the competition, but it's a nice wide back seat, so third passenger will be comfortable. There's enough legroom for the third passenger, even though the central console does come a little bit into the rear. Of course, it houses the AC vents and the charging port. Though legroom is a bit tight, there is enough space to stretch your feet out under the seat, so you can get really comfortable. And although I'm talking about it having less legroom than the competition, what I do have to say is two 6-footers would fit one behind the other here comfortably, so it is adequate. The seats are very comfortable with a nice recline angle, and the cushioning is really good as well. The rear seat also gets an armrest. The window line for someone as short as me is a bit high, but I'm not feeling hemmed in. There is the sunroof in the top end variant as well. The ride quality has a pliant edge, and there are never really any sharp intrusions into the cabin. You don't feel any bumps or potholes really filtering through in a hard manner. But it is a bit jittery, as in it lets you know what's happening under the tires, especially on an uneven section of road. Okay, so now it's time to drive the all-new 1-litre turbo petrol engine, and this time with the auto gearbox. This is a nice little engine. Doesn't feel like a 1-litre at all. It feels quite quick actually. It's not the kind of power that'll pin you to your seat, but it's more like a consistent delivery of power that begins from get-go and continues to build up in an effortless manner. The test figures threw up a 12.58 seconds 0 to 100, which is quicker than the 1.5-litre Dragon engine in the EcoSport with the automatic transmission. In-gear acceleration is also quick, and overall it's an engine that will let you enjoy your time behind the wheel. The gearbox is quick to react, slow down, put your foot down for more power. It's happy to downshift quite quickly. It works really well. Let's slow it down. Let's get it really slow and see how it would be in city conditions. It's quite smooth between the gears, really don't feel any jumps. Even at low speed, when you suddenly put your foot down, it doesn't snap into a gear. It's just a very smooth progression. You really don't feel the need for manual intervention, but putting it in manual just lets you enjoy the performance a bit more. Yep, and using the manual mode, I find that this engine is quite happy to rev. And it feels nice and strong. So I'm having quite a lot of fun with this engine. I quite like it. Now what you have to remember is that you don't get the auto box with the top end variant. You will have to go one lower than the top. Yes, that's right. The 1-litre petrol with the DCT auto box comes only in the SX Plus variant. Now this misses out a few features which are available with the top spec SXO, which is only available in the manual. You don't get the rear wiper and washer, you don't get side and curtain airbags, you don't get the rear armrest, and neither do you get the 60-40 rear seat split. For now, let's stop and take a look at what the Venue offers. Inside the Venue, inside this car, that name still gets me every time. It's very easy to fall into a good seating position. Seat height adjust is manual, but you've got good visibility, nice big glass area. Dash design is neat, clean, simple, well laid out. Everything feels good quality over here. Lots of storage areas. There's a parcel shelf that's right beneath the top half of the dash and the glove box area. Nice large glove box. There's a shelf for your phone, which is in the central part of the console, and it doubles up for the wireless charging. There are cup holders. This fancy gizmo here is an air purifier. There's a storage box here, which is a small little one. You can put 1-litre bottles into the door pockets, so practical on the inside, comfortable to be in. And of course, it comes loaded with features. Let's take a look. Hyundai is betting big on the fact that Venue is India's first connected car. Blue Link, as it's called, has 33 features including safety, location-based services, driver alerts, voice commands, and remote assistance. Apart from this, the Venue also has an extensive list of other features. In the flesh, the Venue looks quite compact, and from afar, one might even mistake it for a hatchback, probably due to the fact that it's not a very tall car. Still, it has what it takes to tick off the SUV box, and that is a good amount of ground clearance, a beefy front end with a flat bonnet and upright cabin. On the side, it's hard not to notice the naked wheel wells that stand out in the gap between body and wheels. But apart from that, it's a sleek profile that tapers down to the rear. The tail of the car looks wide and the boot is reasonably large for a car of its size. The 60-40 seat split also allows you to open up more space. Now that brings us to one final thing to consider, the price. Does the Venue have the arsenal to take on the competition? Oh yes, it does. To begin with, there are a variety of engine and gearbox configurations to choose from. If you want economy, there is the diesel, and if you want fun to drive, then the turbo petrol delivers. And although we didn't drive it, there is also a 1.2-litre petrol for those with a budget that gets a killer price. The diesel engine is a bit lackluster and the Venue's rear seat space is not the best, but neither of these are deal breakers. And apart from that, it really doesn't set a foot wrong. It's the first connected car in the country, it has quality interiors, it comes packed with features, has a good size boot, good ride comfort and is an easy to drive car. Really, it ticks off all the right boxes. And then of course there is the price that just drives the deal home. If you asked, should I buy a Venue? I'd say yes.